March 1998. Time to start a new job. Doing the same thing, picture framing. But those of you who watched last week's video know that I was laid off from Illyria Arts and told that if I found a new job, I should take it. They didn't know how long the layoff would be. And so I found a new job at Framart, a larger than Illyria Arts framing company. I believe they had 5 locations at the time. And I started out at their Woodmere location, which is east of Cleveland. It was not an auspicious start. I went on a Wednesday for the job interview, and I drove out, and it was about a 45-minute drive in the middle of the afternoon. Had the interview. They hired me on the spot, asked if I could start on Monday. I said, I can start tomorrow. So on Thursday morning, I started driving to work, and my brakes went out. So I made it back home. I had to call and tell them that I had car trouble. I would start on Monday. So got the car situation figured out over the weekend. Monday morning, head off to work in the middle of rush hour traffic. And so I ended up, it took longer than 45 minutes, and I ended up being about 10 minutes late for my first day of work. I ended up working for this company for 7 years, so a bad start, but it turned out okay. So Framart in Woodmere, doing more picture framing with a pretty good group of people. At Illyria Arts, it was basically just me most of the time. Occasionally the salesmen were around or the owner was around, but it was pretty much all me. And at Framart, all sorts of people. We had a manager and an assistant manager, and then 3 or 4 people just doing the picture framing and selling and stuff. So I enjoyed it. I love picture framing. Aside from that, still hanging out with Jane. We're going to get to some stuff. Actually, we're going to start with some stuff. So we'll jump right in. Jane and I were trading books, having each other read stuff from when we were younger, stuff we hadn't heard of or were familiar with, different things. And so the first book for March of 1998 was The Eternal Enemy by Christopher Pike. This is the 3rd Christopher Pike book that I read in a row. The last 2 were in the last video. So The Eternal Enemy, and this is about a young girl, high school girl, who buys a VCR, and instead of taping what she wants it to tape, it's taping the news from the future, which at first she thinks is pretty cool until she sees something that involves her. But this thing goes off the rails. It is way out there. And I'm not going to get into the details unless you want. We can talk about it, get spoilery down in the comments. But it is wild. And at this point, I'm going to show you a little behind the scenes. I have this notebook here where I make notes. In the back, I list my book reviews. I just write them down after I do them, and then I put a little check mark after I've posted it, so I keep track of where I'm at. In the front, I have the notes that I make for these videos. So I'm looking at my 3-ring binder where I have my actual list of books, and as I go through it, say for March of 1998, I will most likely have to look up the book on Amazon or Goodreads if I have to, just to get the synopsis of what it is, remind myself of what I read. And I do that right before I film these videos, so I don't have to take a lot of notes because I've just read the synopsis. And just to give you an idea, I don't know if you'll be able to read this, but for The Eternal Enemy, my notes simply say VCR Future News. So, There you go. A little behind the scenes. That's how I do things. Because really, 1998, unless a book blew me away or it's one I've read multiple times, I'm not going to remember the details. So anyway, that is The Eternal Enemy by Christopher Pike, the first book that I read in 1998, March of 1998. Book number 2 is Fletch 1. That's W-O-N, Fletch 1 by Gregory MacDonald. So this is a prequel to the Fletch series. It's essentially the first Fletch story, or the earliest Fletch story that we're getting. He's a fledgling reporter. They don't really know what department to put him in. I feel like at one point they have him in headlines, but he's a smartass, so he's writing all these kind of smartass headlines that are technically accurate, but it's pissing off the editor, so they put him in other places, other departments. In this book, he's in the society pages at one point, sort of this subplot where he's looking at this health spa gym place that caters to all of its clients' needs. And basically, little spoilery here, I suppose, they put you on a workout regimen and then have sex with you. And they try to do this with Fletch as he's doing his article, but he's supposed to be getting married soon. So, he's got to kind of fight him off. But the main story is he's going to interview this lawyer. He's going to meet him out in the parking lot of the newspaper. And when he gets there, the lawyer's dead. And so he takes it upon himself to investigate. I really like this one. It's a lot of fun to see Fletch when he was younger, just starting out, and still has this relationship. It's a lot of fun. Good stuff. Now, book 3. I think this was a troll from Jane before, that was a thing. Or maybe passive aggressiveness, trying to see if I would read whatever she suggested I read or lent to me to read. This is up there with Bridges of Madison County as something that one would not expect me to have ever read. Excuse me. So book 3 for March of 1998 is Sweet Valley Twins, Stephen Gets Even by, is that Jamie Suzanne? That it looks like I have written down there. So this is part of the Sweet Valley Twins series. And the twins are having a scare war with the boys at school. The twins and their friends are having a scare war with the boys at school. And they're practicing all of their scares on their younger brother, Stephen, which is really annoying him. And the twins are going to have a sleepover. Stephen thinks that they're going to mess with him during this sleepover, that it's going to be horrible. And so he plots his own revenge. That's it. I don't remember reading this book. If before looking at this list, someone asked me if I'd ever read a Sweet Valley Twins book, I would have said, why would I read one? But apparently I did. It may have been fine. I don't know. But I needed a palate cleanser after that, and so I followed it up with Fletch 2. That's T-O-O, by Gregory MacDonald. This, again, a prequel to this Fletch series. The 9th book written, but, again, the 2nd book chronologically. And in this one, Fletch gets married, or is getting married. And he believes his father is dead, but I don't know what's with all the hand gestures today. He believes his father is dead, but he gets a message from him saying, I'm not dead, I'm in Africa, come and visit. So Fletch and his new wife, instead of going on their Colorado ski trip honeymoon, go to Africa, where they're just one step behind finding his father the whole time that they're there. And his father's best friend is trying to help. So what's going on? Is his father dead? Is he alive? Is it all a scam? You got to read the book to find out. It's another good Fletch book. I don't think it's as good as Fletch 1. But again, I enjoyed it. Really big fan of all the Fletch books. Then we have Land of Terror by Edgar Rice Burroughs. This is part of the excuse me, part of the Pellucidar series. And David Innes, I think this is one of the later books. So David Innes already has this. He's from the surface world, our world. And he's spent enough time down in Pellucidar, which is the world in the center of the earth. He's spent enough time there that he's got a huge reputation. Might even be emperor at this point. I don't know. But his female companion is kidnapped. And so it's just adventures in this landlost inner earth world as he tries to save his lady. Just good, pulpy Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff. Then we have a book that, when I read the synopsis, made me kind of want to read it, give it another try, because I don't remember reading this, but it actually sounds pretty interesting. And this is Angel by Gary D. Kilworth. And so this is about, it takes place in San Francisco, and it's about the war between heaven and hell is still ongoing, but it's sort of in this time out of time, a place out of place. But every once in a while, a demon will sort of take a break and come to Earth and hide in human form. And so then heaven will send an angel to Earth to take care of the demon. But the angels don't really care about people. So they'll kill anybody that gets in their way. And so this particular angel apparently gets a taste for killing people. And so our main characters are these two detectives that at first are trying to, figure out what's going on with these murders and these things that are going on, and then become essentially involved in the war between heaven and hell. I do not remember this, but it sounds pretty interesting. So, depending on how the writing is, could be a very good book. I may have to find a copy and read it again. Follow that up with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Night of the Living Rerun by Arthur Byron Cover. Novel based on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And in this, Buffy is having recurring dreams where she's in Puritan times hunting a witch. And at first she just thinks it's some weird nightmares that she's having. But then it seems that Giles and Xander might also have past lives. And this apparently has something to do with the Master being trapped in the Hellmouth. And he's trying to manipulate the past so that he doesn't become trapped in the Hellmouth. And his schemes from back in the day to open the Hellmouth will come to fruition. So Buffy and the Scooby Gang, of course, have to stop the Master. It's fun. It's good Buffy stuff. If you're a Buffy fan, most of these books are enjoyable. Just fun. It's always nice, for me anyway, to see the characters that I like in one medium in another one, if it's well done. And it's just extra time with characters that you love. Next up, I have this book, but I left it out of reach. So you're going to see me lean over and try to reach the book. There we go. Oh, my poor damaged cover. Because it's a hardback. The dust jacket's got a little ding in it. But the book is Wonder Woman, Gods and Goddesses by John Byrne. And this, I think, is pretty interesting. I like John Byrne. I was a big fan of his writing and his art generally in comic books. He wrote a couple horror novels that I enjoyed. But in this book, basically, you've got the world turning against Wonder Woman, and a big part of that is this religious leader, and maybe some other religious folks, that are essentially saying, because she claims to come from Greek mythology, Greek gods, these are part of her real world, that she's blasphemous because there's only one God. And so just basically religion against Wonder Woman, which I find to be a very interesting theme. When reading fiction, I simply immerse myself in the world. Whatever I am told is the world, I accept it. When it comes to comic books like Wonder Woman, I accept that the Greek gods exist. That's part of their mythology. So it's interesting to take maybe sort of a real world approach where we have very conflicting but huge religions that none of them really believe in the old mythologies, the old religions, essentially. And so, in this case, Christianity saying she's obviously blasphemous, perhaps even a tool of Satan, because she's trying to tell the world that the Greek gods are real, and she's spreading their message. That's wrong. Very interesting take, I think. And I like John Byrne. And I like Wonder Woman. And then finally, excuse me, the last book that I read in March of 1998 was Shadow Games by Ed Gorman. And it's about a young, I don't remember its child, but a young superstar who always involved in scandals, and then they're found with a dead teenager, something bad, and they end up in a mental hospital for like 5 years. They get their shit together, and when they get out, they just want to rebuild their life, but essentially the past comes back to haunt them, I believe. And they got to figure out what the hell's going on, who's messing with them. It's Ed Gorman. It's going to be a well-written, interesting book, and I believe it was. And I think it's a standalone. Ed Gorman had quite a few series, different detectives, different people who aren't detectives but always get involved in some sort of mystery. But I think this one is standalone, all by its lonesome. So that's Shadow Games by Ed Gorman. Do I have a question for this video? You know what? Let's get away from books for a bit. Why don't you folks share with me some of the different jobs that you've had? What's your favorite job? What's the favorite job that you ever had? For me, it was picture framing. There were aspects of it that I didn't like, mainly dealing with customers, but I loved the craftsmanship. I liked working with my hands. I did like that I got to be creative. Sometimes I did make up some of my own designs when it came to mats, the matting around the picture. I got kind of fancy with that stuff occasionally. I liked seeing some of the things that people brought in to have framed or shadow boxed. I was a really, really big fan of picture framing. But what about you? What was your favorite job? And I suppose, well, we'll say least favorite job. I'll throw that in as well. I was going to save it for when I got to the point where I had my least favorite job, but it's going to be a long time before we get to that, because it wasn't that long ago from present day. And I'll tell you, working at Walmart, I was an overnight stalker at Walmart, and I absolutely hated it. But I loved picture framing. I don't mind where I work now at the factory. The company sucks, but the work's fine. What about you? Let's hear about your jobs. Let me know in the comments below. And if you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. All the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter, for the time being, is at Ronin5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is ErikSmith5757. That's Erik with a K. ERIKSMITH 5757. That's all I have for you this week. So until next week, read more books.